Listen to the podcast. Just search for Hancock and Kelly.
All right, let's take the big picture look now. John's big political winner nationally in 2023 is House Speaker Mike Johnson. Johnson emerged after 8 House Republicans sided with Democrats and ousted Republican Speaker Kevin McCarthy. It took 3 weeks with multiple congressional Republicans failing to garner enough support to become Speaker. Why Mike Johnson for you, John Hancock?
Well, you think about the Speaker of the House, Andy, and it's Speaker of the House is somebody, oh yeah, I've heard of Nancy Pelosi. Oh yeah, Paul Ryan, he's the guy from Wisconsin who wants to cut the spending out there. Mike Johnson, I do politics for a living. I even work in congressional campaigns across the country for a living. I had never heard of Mike Johnson, and I can't think of the first. This has to be one of the first times in history where somebody emerged out of true political obscurity. He wasn't even a committee chair, and becomes Speaker of the House, the third most powerful politician in America, and in his case, the most powerful Republican elected official in the country. How can you not say that's not a big win for good old Mike Johnson? We all know who he is now.
So it's less to do with policy and more coming out of nowhere.
Coming out of nowhere. I mean, shoot, Michael Kelly could have been picked as the Speaker of the House, and it would have been about the same amount of awareness by the people out there.
You're probably not going to call Mike Johnson a political winner, but looking at it from that aspect.
Yeah. He's a winner in the sense that when he was going to the bathroom, somebody tapped him on the shoulder and said, hey, are you interested in being Speaker? Because that's where it got with the Republican Party. Look, we need to all be paying attention. What's happening with the Republican Party and Michael Johnson's situation is the perfect example of it. There's a reorganization of this Republican Party going on right now, and the conspiracy theorists and the kooks, from my perspective, are winning, and I think that's who Michael Johnson winds up being the face of. I hope that's not the case. We've got the same reorganization inside my party going. Fortunately, though, we've had better leadership at the top. We'll wait and see if this guy's able to bring legislation across the line. Right now, he just showed up.
Michael's national winner is a Republican. Presidential candidate Nikki Haley. She has emerged from the 4 GOP debates as perhaps the top alternative to former President Trump, who skipped the debates and remains the front runner by a large margin. Why Nikki Haley, Michael?
Well, there's no doubt about it that there's some type of fever going on inside the Republican Party. It's been going on for 5 or 6 years, this whole Trump thing. I'm hopeful that we're about a year away from Donald Trump hopefully being a distant memory in terms of being the head of the Republican Party. I think Nikki Haley, who I disagree with on most policies, has found a way to position herself as a rational person that can lead the opposition. I don't think it will benefit her in this upcoming cycle, but I think it's positioned her nicely against a bunch of boys who had all the money. The woman's the one who's coming through and showing leadership.
Now, you like Haley too, but let's look at her chances in 2024. And let's look at we've got a lot of big races. Missouri governor.
Right.
President of the United States. Missouri Senate.
Yep.
With Josh Hawley and Lucas Coons. And Wesley Bell taking on Cori Bush for the St. Louis 1st Congressional District. Any surprises, or what do you see happening in those?
Well, I'll tell you the most interesting statewide race perhaps is going to be the race for Attorney General between Andrew Bailey, the incumbent, and Will Scharf, the challenger, who's extremely well funded. And those two, there may be more money spent on the Attorney General's race in Missouri in the primary than on the U.S. Senate race or the governor's race in this state in the primary. That would be unprecedented, but that could very well happen this year.
But a Democrat has no chance in
Zero.
that race.
Zero.
Any of those races jump out at you? What about Wesley Bell and Cori Bush?
Well, absolutely. I mean, Cori Bush is facing a challenge from Wesley Bell, who has good name identification all across St. Louis County. Of course, he had been the Senate campaign, kind of invisible in that campaign, really hasn't gotten started against Cori Bush. But he's well positioned simply because there's a lot of folks who don't like Cori Bush because she's been the leading of the opposition to much of Joe Biden's agenda, whether it be the support of Israel, the transportation bill, the infrastructure bill, the bill that would have funded Boeing. All of these things happened under Cori Bush's watch. So Wesley Bell should be walking in with a base of constituency that will be supportive of him, but it's awfully hard to take out an incumbent.
And you think it's not going to be Joe Biden as the presidential nominee for the Democrats?
I've said it. I've been saying it for weeks, Andy. If you look at Biden's numbers, you look at his performance head-to-head against Donald Trump in the battleground states, if you look objectively at his manner, and the clear effect age is having on him. I just think the Democrats, and they've got time here, where the Republicans start in Iowa and New Hampshire, the Democrats don't start until South Carolina in March. They've got time to make a change. I believe they're going to make a change. I could be wrong. I was wrong. I think it was 1987. But they could make a change between now and then, and I predict they're going to do that. So we'll see.
Well, let me tell you what I think and what I know. I think Joe Biden's going to be the nominee. I agree with John. There may be some questions out there, et cetera, but boy, it sure seems like this is a train that's going to be running all the way to the White House. So I think he will be the nominee, regardless if he's the nominee or not. Both of those candidates, either Joe Biden or Gavin Newsom, would be great. Here's what I know. A Democrat will win the election for president of the United States because the Republicans are coming with Donald Trump, and he's too distasteful for most Americans.
I'm not sure.
Both of you guys think Trump is the nominee.
Yeah.
I don't think it's Trump Biden at all, but what do I know?
All right.
Still to come on Hancock and Kelly. Holy cow, it's already been a year since we rang in 2023. Time for our 24 New Year's resolution. Hancock and Kelly, go for each other.